So picture this. You and your best friend have an absolutely killer business idea. You trust each other completely, you finish each other's sentences, you're ready to take on the world. I mean, it sounds perfect, right? But the moment you shake hands and decide to go into business together, you're stepping into a whole legal world with its own set of rules. And not knowing those rules, well, that's where things can go wrong fast. So let's open up what I'm calling the partnership playbook. We are going to break down all those unwritten rules that just kick in the second you start a business with someone. We're going to look at what you get, what you owe, and maybe most importantly, how just one person's actions can affect the entire team. We're basically going to walk through the entire life of a partnership. We'll start with that simple handshake that gets it all going, then dive into the rights and duties you suddenly have. After that, we'll see how your business deals with the outside world, and finally, we'll cover what happens when partners decide to come and go. All right, let's start at square one. How does a partnership actually become a thing in the eyes of the law? It's probably a lot simpler than you think. At its very core, this is it. It's just an agreement. You don't always need some fancy 100-page document with a wax seal. The second you and at least one other person agree to run a business together and you both want to share in the results, the good and the bad, well, congratulations, you've probably just formed a legal partnership. I want you to think of every partnership as having two rule books. The first one is your partnership agreement. That's what you and your partners actually decide on. But if you don't have one, or maybe it's got some gaps, a second rulebook just takes over automatically. And that's the law, specifically the Partnership Act. It's kind of like the default settings for your business. Okay, so you're a partner now. What do you actually get from this deal? Let's talk about the fundamental rights that come with that title. So the law gives every partner some basic built-in rights. For starters, you have a right to be involved in running the business and have your voice heard on big decisions. You also get to look at the company's books whenever you want. And here's one that surprises a lot of people. Unless you specifically agree on something else, you have the right to share profits equally. Yeah, equally. It doesn't matter who put in more cash or who works longer hours. Oh, and you also get a veto if someone wants to bring a new partner into the mix. Of course, it's not all about what you get. With rights come responsibilities. This is definitely not a one-way street. Being a partner means you have some pretty serious obligations to the business and, just as importantly, to each other. And this is absolutely crucial. You can write almost anything you want in your partnership agreement, but some duties are mandatory. They're non-negotiable. The law basically says that a partnership is built on a foundation of mutual trust, and it steps in to protect that foundation. These are things you just can't agree to get rid of. So, what are these core duties? Well, you always have to act in good faith for the good of the whole partnership, not just for yourself. You've got to be an open book, be honest, and share all the info with your partners. If you do something fraudulent, you're the one who has to cover the company's losses. And this is a big one. You can't make secret profits on the side using the firm's name or assets. And just like you share profits equally by default, guess what? You also have to contribute equally to any loss. See? It really is this perfectly symmetrical relationship. That default right to an equal slice of the profits has a perfect mirror image, the default duty to cover an equal chunk of the losses. They are two sides of the very same coin. Okay, so we've talked about what goes on inside the partnership. But what happens when one of you starts dealing with clients or suppliers or banks? This is where things can get a little risky. It all boils down to this legal idea called agency. What it means in simple terms is that the law sees every single partner as an agent of the firm. And that means one partner's decision, one signature on a piece of paper, can legally tie up the entire business, even if the other partners had absolutely no idea it was happening. And that right there is the million-dollar question, isn't it? Where's the line? Well, the law has a name for this. It's called implied authority, and it basically defines what kinds of actions are considered normal for a partner in your type of business to take. Let's break this down. A partner can usually handle the day-to-day stuff that binds the firm. Buying supplies, borrowing money for the business, hiring an employee. But what they can't typically do are these huge, game-changing decisions on their own. Things like admitting the firm is at fault in a lawsuit, or buying a building for the company. Those big moves almost always need everyone to agree. And this is why you have to get this concept. If your partner makes a deal that's within their implied authority, let's say they order a massive shipment of inventory, you and the whole business are now legally on the hook to pay for it. Even if you told them, hey, don't do that, it doesn't matter. The supplier has no idea about your internal arguments. They just know they shook hands with a partner of your firm. Businesses aren't set in stone. They evolve. People come, people go. So, for our last section, let's look at what happens when the actual team lineup of the partnership changes. So, any change in the partnership team is known legally as a reconstitution of the firm. This happens when someone new joins, when a partner retires or maybe gets forced out, or when a partner passes away or goes bankrupt. And each of these events has its own specific set of rules. Just think of your partnership as a really exclusive club. The default rule is you can't just bring in a new member unless every single person who's already in the club says yes. It's a unanimous vote. This protects everyone from having a new partner they don't want forced on them. Now, you can change this in your agreement, but if you don't say anything, unanimity is the rule. Okay, this is a huge warning for anyone thinking of leaving a partnership. Just packing your bags and walking away is not enough. Until you give a formal, public notice that you've retired, you can still be held legally responsible for the deals the firm makes after you're gone. The lesson here is so clear. Make your exit official and make it public. When you boil it all down, it really comes back to this. A successful partnership isn't just about a great idea or a strong friendship. It's about a clear, understood balance of give and take, of rights and duties, where every single partner knows exactly where they stand. And that kind of leaves us with one last thing to think about: good faith and trust. That's where it all starts. But the law is what gives it structure. So take a second and ask yourself, is your business partnership really built on a solid foundation, ready for the road ahead? Or are you just leaving it all up to chance?